Hey, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen? I'm Piglet here once again. Hey, I'm Rarity here, and hey, if you're Pony and anyone else for that matter, welcome back to more of the Muxy Toys videos. So anyways, welcome back to more Let's Play of Mario Kart DS for the Nintendo DS. So last time we actually did tackle through the beginning parts of mission mode from level 1 through 3, and now we're going to continue on and moving on into level 4, and possibly onwards as well. So even then though, we can actually get mission mode done until almost at the very same time, until when Valentine's Day is getting close. So anyways, let's get this thing started. Sorry for a little bit of a my mouth has been twisted and all that stuff. So anyways, let's get on with this. Mission 4-1, reach the finish before Donkey Kong. Mission, 4-1. So yeah, as far as you probably suggest by now, is that the missions themselves can get a little bit slightly tougher now. Well, not like as hard as when we get into later on, when we get into level 5, and especially level 6 and onwards. And even especially level 7, so, yeah, we'll get into that in a minute shortly. So, in this case, in this mission, we have to race against with Donkey Kong. It's pretty simple. We have to race against with him in the likes of DK Pass, which is one of people's least favorite levels in Mario Kart DS, because again, you will get hit by these snowballs a lot. Even then, I don't think these snowballs aren't that much of a threat in this level. Jeez, I think Donkey Kong's going to take the slower paced section, which was, these rare item box scenarios. Even then, though, that we can actually beat him just in time. So even then, though, the only major hazardous in this level you have to worry about is the snowmans involving, and also some of these snowball avalanches as well. So yeah, I just want to clarify that, and this is why you actually be playing as Wario in this mission, because, oh, new record, 3 stars. Fantastic, actually. Anyways, mission 4-2, blast 20 crabs. And this takes place in Plum Shore in the Battle Arena course. Like, you're gonna have to just designate all of the crabs, though, basically. You don't have to necessarily defeat it all, so all you have to do in this particular mission, you do have selection of 3 items, which are the regular green shell, triple green shells, and lastly, the Bob-ombs. Even then though, the Bob-ombs will actually designate a lot of these crabs though, basically. So even then though, that we can actually designate them all. So, well, not entirely all of them, mind you, but just some of them. Yeah, I know that, right? So anywho though, I guess there's not much else we can probably think about until at this point in time, But even then, though, that I'm pretty concerned about this, is that we're pretty much in a halfway point of mission mode. Well, grantedly, for the starter of the game, but until when it gets to like the 7th and the final level, we'll explain more on that later as soon as we get to it. 3 stars, nice. But even then, though, we already got that since we were actually first time playing through it. Mission 4-3, race the finish before the red car? Oh, don't you mean the realistic red car? Oh, okay then. So apparently though, the red car can be acted out as the opponent and whatnot. I see how this goes, eh? So anywho though, so in this mission right here, it feels exactly similar to how it does it for, the likes of how it does it for, it beats the likes of, I can't remember what I can describe about this actually. So anywho though. Yeah, for this mission here, as I mentioned earlier, in order to actually success for this mission is to beat the level with, almost reach to the finish before the red car is about to approach. So yeah, that's all there is to know. So yeah, the only hazardous you need to worry about is obviously the cars themselves, because if you get knocked over by these old vehicles, you will pretty much guarantee you'll lose items, and also you'll get temporarily slowed down. So even then though, just gotta be very cautious with these. New record, 2 stars. Well, we could potentially try to make it done a little bit better with 3 stars. Drive through all 7 numbered gates in order. Mission 4-4. So this takes place in Desert Hills, but the likes of Wario for a 2nd time. So even then though, what makes it so weird is that we already been to Desert Hills before as Wario, for the likes of destroying those, pokies and stuff. But this time, however, we're actually going to be doing with this particular level again. But this time for the likes of, just going through these little numbered gates. And that's all there is to know. But anywho though, so this mission is pretty simple. We have to, go through these little number gates, and that's all there is to know. So nothing remarkably challenging or anything like that, but we got 2 stars though nonetheless. Now let's move on to mission 4-5, collect all 15 coins, if you get squished by a Thwomp, you fail. So, if you get squished by a Thwomp at least once, you instantly fail. So, it's got to stay sharp on this part. So, anywho though. So all you do in this mission is you have to collect all 50 of these coins, and that's literally all about it. Because, you have to deal with just only one arena, which is actually the, the Thwomp area. So, yeah, that's all there is to know. Anyways, 3 missions to go before the boss. Mission 4-6, break all 10 item boxes while avoiding those fake items. So, I highly recommend you focusing on the bottom screen most likely, because even especially noticeable if you're actually going to be, if you're playing this on the Wii U version, Wii U Virtual Console re-release version, then you can probably tell what is the difference between the fake item box and the realistic version. Is that the realistic version is something that's more related to the Rainbow Reef version. However, when it's red though, this means they are entirely fake, so you're gonna have to avoid that at all times. So yeah, it's not that bad, not that hard of a mission to deal with though. So, although the only toughest part I find for these types of missions is that the draw distance can be slightly a little bit out of reach and out of hand. But apart from that though, it's not that bad and not that complicated either. Next mission we have is mission 4-7, drive through all 10 gates. There's something you don't see every day, is that you don't actually have numbers to deal with here on these little gates. So instead, you can actually drive through any of these gates, rather than just actually dealing with them in a particular order. So, and this takes place in Waluigi Pinball as Toad. Oh yeah, we haven't not mentioned about the previous mission we did, is the realistic item box we need to get. And that was the one we actually play as Donkey Kong on Choco Mountain from Mario Kart 64, so... Strangely enough, though, is that we haven't actually selected Peach yet. No, we'll get to her until we actually get to later. New record, 3 stars, fantastic of ours. Last mission before the boss in level 4, mission 4-8, perform 9 power slide turbo boosts in 1 lap. And in this level actually takes place in Luigi's Circuit, Mario Kart Super Circuit version, actually. And because of that, though, we actually be playing as Luigi in this course, which makes perfect sense because it's obviously that this course is entirely based off of Luigi after all. But even then, though, that all you have to do is pretty simple. It's get out to just do 9 drifts and all that kinds of stuff, so that way you can actually just try and do a power drifts, and that's all there is to know. However, the only obstacles you definitely need to worry about is these puddles, because it's especially noticeable if you're trying to deal with these drift sections and stuff. Sometimes you're gonna have to actually just try to avoid these puddles, and then if you don't know, however, you'll probably ended up losing your chance to actually perform a drift. Even for if you accidentally got slipped over by the puddle, then you pretty much guarantee you probably failed on this purposely. So, but we only got 1 star, so that's okay enough. And now let's move on to the 4th boss in Mario Kart DS's mission mode. Collect 50 coins while avoiding King Boo. And this takes place in this lava variation of the exact same arena as it does it for the water version, but except it's all in lava. And the player choice for this mission is Princess Peach. At first I thought it was going to be Luigi for some reason, because back in Luigi's Mansion, and especially before Luigi's Mansion 2, that usually Luigi always deals up with King Boo for the final battle. But even then, that somehow they're trying to put up in Princess Peach instead. Well, not to be confused though anyway, as it's the exact same concept when Princess Peach is trying to deal with King Boo. It's actually very similar to how it does it for the 3rd boss in Super Princess Peach, which was King Boo. But the only noticeable difference was though is that in this particular battle of King Boo, obviously you drive in and collect coins. However though, in Super Princess Peach, you do have the emotional system, so even then though, like every time when you use the touchscreen on Super Princess Peach, that you do have full selection of emotional standpoints, which was happy, angry, cure, and even sad. But even then, it does some sort of like a traditional affection. So, very interesting concept altogether. At least from my opinion, anyway. Yeah, sorry for a little bit of a my throat is a little bit too coughed up a little bit. Even then, we'll try and fix our throats as soon as we can. Oh, we only got 2 coins left. But even then, though, although, the catch is about this particular battle is that sometimes King Boo, sometimes you'll just try and distract him every once in a while. And then as soon as he's trying to immediately zoom towards you, this means is that he'll take 10 coins away from you. In order to get these coins back, you must able to drive through him. So that's how this goes though, basically, with this boss battle. So even though it might take a little bit of a pace breaker at one point or another, but it's not that bad, honestly. So now we move on into level 5. Mission 5-1, reach the finish before the stray chain jump. And we're once again playing as Princess Peach, but this time for the likes of we're actually racing against someone. And much like how it does it for the red car, that we're actually racing against with non-playable character, but instead it's just a random obstacle, which was the chain jump. And then if you couldn't tell already, is that you can hear the background music, which is actually very similar as it does it for the Mario Kart Double Dash. You know, with the one with one of the special items for Baby Mario and Baby Luigi, they managed to use the chain jump item so that they can catch you right at one point or another. So even then though, that's how this music is actually from. Because it's pretty obvious, because we actually race against with the actual chain jump. So for this moment, for instance, is that it actually takes place in Peach Gardens. So yeah, that makes perfect sense because there are quite literally quite a few chain jumps around this little stage. So yeah, it's pretty standard stuff. And now let's move on into Mission 5-2, which was called drive backwards and collect 15 coins. If you hit a snowman, you failed. So this is for this courses we actually been into in mission mode so far. Frappy Snowland is this is the only time you actually experience this stage on mission mode. So even then that was the only time in the snow levels case. So because we literally I'm not sure if it's just me, but I'm pretty sure we already done with DK Pass only for one time. But for this mission, it's not so bad. So you're gonna have to be very careful with your backwards driving skills. So even then though, as soon as you've done that, then you can actually just grab those coins that way. Anyways, mission 5-3, destroy all 5 item boxes. So this might be very similar to how it does it from before, but it's gonna be a little bit tricky sometimes. Although my best strategy for this is that you're gonna, after when you grab the 4th item box, be sure to use this mushroom in order to actually go from the further from the first item box, and then that way you can stop at one point or another, like we did that right there. And this way you can get yourselves a nice, easy 3-star ranking. So yeah, pretty cool tip from Matt, mind you. But anyways, mission 5-4, drive through all 10 numbered gates in order. So, and this takes place in Bowser Castle 2. We even know that we're actually going to be playing as Bowser in this level for a second time, much like how it does it for grabbing coins by these swamps, basically. However, the biggest noticeable difference was, though, is the fact that obviously we're going through these numbered gates and stuff, so yeah, that's all there is to know, though, basically. So even then, though, that we pretty much guarantee that we can actually dominate it for this easier. So anyway, now in the basic premise of this particular part, though, oh, that's actually kind of weird, though, if you did that right there. Oh yeah, that was when I usually just bounce up into this little bouncy invisible, you know, forget what I said. So yeah, yeah, for that way, the skill we actually did done before from them, the 5 item boxes we actually grabbed. That trick should be helpful, even when for some reason though. Although we'll explain more on that later. Mission 5-5, complete 1 lap in the opposite direction within a time limit. So this takes place in Mushroom Bridge. So even then though, we're gonna have to go through a Mushroom Bridge course, but except rather than just driving forwards, instead we're actually going backwards, just like how it does in DK Pass. You know, in the one where you have to deal with racing against with Donkey Kong at one point? Yeah, it's kind of similar to that. But except we're not racing against with anyone in this particular mission yet. But even then, we'll get into that as soon as we actually, So yeah, we're quite literally breezing for these missions quite literally fast, though. But even then, we'll, as soon as we get into these other missions and so on onwards, that the missions themselves can get a little bit too tough and difficult, even a little bit longer than it's used to be. But we'll get into that in a moment. But anyways, 2-star rankings, new record. Fantastic. Mission 5-6, grab all 18 coins. And this takes place in Tart Top, so as Yoshi. But even then though, that it's not that bad of a mission, but sometimes it might be a little bit trickier for the third, or in this case, these last 3 coins, because all you have to do in this particular mission is that, although the first 15 coins is not so bad, because they are in plain sight, However, though, when you're trying to grab the final 3 coins, you have to deal with adjustments of the, you know, just trying to jump for this little jump ramp onto this little cherry top. And that way you can actually grab those 3 coins effortlessly. So, there you go. Anyways, enough of that, and let's move on to mission 5-7, drive through all 8 numbered gates in order. So, that was literally 2, numbered gate missions in a row so far. But this takes place in DK Pass as Toad. So, seriously though, we actually played as Toad twice this level though, which is kind of impressive. However, the thing is about this mission though is that you have to dodge a lot of snowball avalanche, so that way you won't easily get knocked over. So, that's basically how this mission goes though, basically. So even then though, that as soon as you're actually trying to dodge as many snowballs as you can, they should be able to be fine just as that. So, yeah, there you go. And we got 2-star rankings, new record. And now for the final mission, level 5 before the next boss. Reach the finish before Mario. So, mission 5-8. So, I wonder what we're going to be playing as. We'll actually be playing as Luigi. Huh, interesting. Even then though, that kind of makes it more likely brother by brother racing against Whip. But even then though, this actually takes place in Mario's circuit because it's obviously Mario's stage. So even then, all you do in this mission is pretty simple and self-explanatory. Just beat him in order to actually just, you know, beat this mission. So, pretty standard stuff though, kind of think about it. But even then though, that we need to actually grab ourselves some item boxes. I can't say for myself, kept on missing those item boxes. Oh, but the only thing is about this particular mission though is that you have to avoid a lot of enemies. Like for instance, we actually got spin up by piranha plants. Let's try that again. So anyways though, so even then though, there goes my there goes our first attempt. So let's do this for a second attempt. So basically you have to avoid a lot of enemies involved, like these Goombas, like what Mario just got hit there right there. And also these fire spewing piranha plants, and finally the actual piranha plants themselves. So yeah, that's basically how this goes for this particular course and stuff. But however though, the rarest, or in this case, the biggest comes in handy item in this mission is the Starman, because not only does it give you some, you know, top speed and what have you, but it also designates these enemies. So, you know how we did that before with the Jeeps back in level 1? That actually feels more likely a handy item in this mission, so unless items can also count as well, but even then I kind of prefer the Starman a little bit more, just because if you know, you can actually plow for the enemies. And we got 2 stars. So anyways, now we move on to the 5th boss battle, hit the big Bob-omb with 3 Bob-ombs. So, let's go get started then, shall we? Yeah, we're actually going to be pressing OK, and this actually takes place the exact same environment as it does it for the iRock boss battle, but except rather than just actually playing as Mario for a, well, the second time, instead we're actually playing as Wario. And much like how it does it for the mission where you have to take care of these pokies with the Bob-ombs, but even then, this time, however, we're actually going to be doing with the big Bob-omb with just only 3 hits. Now, after when you've done that, then the battle itself is pretty much over, so yeah. Oh, but here's the thing though, is that you desperately want to avoid these already set bombs. It's the fact that if you get hit just like that, then you actually lose your balloons. So even then though, one thing we haven't mentioned about this is that you do have balloons into your disposal, although I think we did sort of mention that earlier on. But this way, this actually acts out as your health amount. So even then though, every time when you're going to get hit by these little projectiles or certain enemies, you actually instantly lose one of your balloons. However, if all of these 3 balloons are out, this means you'll lose the battle. So that's how this goes though when it comes to why these balloons are there. So anyways, that concludes level 5, and now we move on to level 6. In my opinion, probably one of the toughest levels in mission mode. But anyways, let's go start from the top. Mission 6-1, drive backward across the spinning bridge. If you fall, you're out. So basically, this takes place in the DS variation of Bowser's Castle. And speaking of Bowser, we're going to be playing as him. So basically, in this mission is pretty simple. We have to basically just, you know, trying to figure out the controls of the reverse backwardsing mechanic. And this way, you can actually just manage to, you know, bypass the, you know, the bottomless pit from this little spinning bridge. And there we go, new record. Jeez, we're getting a lot of new records on 3-star rankings. Mission 6-2, get stars and run over 15 rocky wrenches. So, this place it takes place in Ashton Fortress because, you know, it actually contains, you know, rocky wrenches on that particular level or course. And then we're going to be playing as Warrior for this particular mission again. Even though it feels very similar to how it does it for these cheap chiefs they actually did deal with. But except the fact that we're actually going to be doing these rocky wrenches instead of, you know, just, you know. I can't know how I can describe about this actually, I'm gonna must admit. But anyway though, so the except the noticeable difference for us though is that you don't actually defeat the 5 of these rocky wrenches. Instead, you actually get to take down 15 of them, which is kind of a lot by comparison's sake. But it's not that bad. But even though sometimes it might take a while to actually just to get this on your first try with your, well, just only 1-star ranking. Because if you take too long on this mission, you just get yourself an A or a lower rank. So even then now, unfortunately, there's no star rank we got. But we still have it though in our file. Anyways, mission 6-3, collect all 30 coins. And this mission takes place in Choco Island 2. And we actually be playing as Yoshi, so yeah, that makes it more likely as simple as you can get. So while doing so is that you're gonna have to avoid these piranha plants, because again, if you touch by the piranha plants, you'll expecting that if you actually get hit by something, you'll temporarily lose coins. So just be very cautious and be careful, especially noticeable when we get into probably, in my opinion, the hardest coin mission in this game has to offer. But even then, this mission is not that bad, or not that hard though, however, so even then, we'll take 1-star rank as it is. Next mission we have is 6-4, destroy all 10 item boxes. This is by far the longest missions in the game, because you actually immediately takes place in Block Fort, which is another battle course of the game, which we already showcased for that already. Which is, you know, the returning battle arena from Mario Kart 64, but except with the upgraded visuals and stuff like that. Now, this is a reason why this mission is by far the longest in the game, because you do have 2 minutes to your disposal, and also not to mention, though, you have to do a lot of exploration on this particular mission, because obviously, if you couldn't tell, there are a grand total of 10 item boxes in this mission. And after every time when you actually just grab one of these item boxes, you do have a singular mushroom. But even though mushrooms do provide you to helping you for this particular part, but even though that it might take some time to actually get your all 10 of these item boxes to your disposal, but sometimes they're ended up in a, well, I would say random places though. But even then though, that another thing is kind of a noticeable thing, that why this mission is pretty long by comparison to the other missions ago, is that you're gonna have to do a lot of explorations I mentioned earlier, but also there's gonna be a lot of emphasis on a lot of confusion sometimes, but again, you can like keep an eye on the bottom screen until you actually clearly see where the 10th and the final item box is gonna be located. But usually though, that again, you do have 2 minutes to your disposal, so that way you can actually briefly finish this mission just as that. So let's see what rank we get. Oh, that's a bit lame. B rank. That's a little bit lame for my excuse. Anyways, mission 6-5, drive through all 8 numbered gates in order. So, in this mission, it takes place in Sky Garden from, well, obviously Mario Kart Super Circuit. So, anyway, though, so right off the bat, though, you do have 3 dash mushrooms so that it can actually help you to actually just, you know, dash through the this level itself. So even then, though, it's especially noticeable when if you're trying to come across into those little ramps there. So that way you can actually reach into the quicker variations of these little specific pathways, so that way that's actually pretty handy. And also that you can actually use those to actually just, you know, just speed things up a moment until you get to this point here. It's presumably we actually got to the cloud part, and then the final gate is basically you have to speed things up, and new record, 3 stars. Fantastic, we're doing pretty well with these 3-star rankings, I think. Mission 6-6, perform 14 power slide turbo boosts in 1 lap. In this place, it actually takes place in Yoshi's Circuit as Yoshi. So yeah, it's pretty obvious at this point because it's obviously a Yoshi-themed level, so even under that course only belongs to him. So it might be pretty tricky at first because especially noticeable you're actually going to be coming across into these little curved parts. Even especially noticeable if you accidentally got bashed into the wall, then you probably ended up actually going to fail on this mission. But all you have to do, you're going to have to do a lot of like you know, drifts and stuff. You're gonna have to do like, let's say roughly 14 as what's shown. But even then though, it takes a lot of time to actually just to do them all, because especially noticeable if you actually just try to manage to, you know, press the left or right simultaneously so that you can actually just, you know, do the turbo boost and stuff. So even then though, that's how this usually goes. But even then though, let's see what rank we got. We only just got 1-star ranking. But anyways, now we move on to somewhat a little bit of a trickier mission. Mission 6-7, collect all 40 coins. Now the reason why we say, or Rarity says, this is probably the trickiest mission in this level is because, first off, you do need to collect all 40 of those coins. And secondly, we ended up in the giant clock thing that only contains both hands, which was the minute hand and a second hand, or in this case, an hour hand. But however though, the only major downside I can think about this mission here is the fact that the reason why we think this is probably the trickiest mission in this level is the fact that if you get hit by any sort of hands or what have you, you'll lose some coins. Even then though, that usually those hands can be something more summed up as like an obstacle hazard. So even then though, you got to stay sharp and be very careful with this part, because it's especially noticeable if you think that you're almost there to the actual 40 coins, but you might, and next thing what happens was though is I'm presuming every time when you're gonna get hit by any sort of hazard obstacles and stuff, you actually manage to lose, let's say, about roughly 6 or 5 coins, which I don't know if it's true, but even then though, I might as well tell to find out as soon as I actually research on that stuff. But anyways, once you grab all 40 of these coins, then mission's done. But again, it takes a lot of practice on this mission though. So anyway, mission 6-8, race the finish before Princess Peach. So the player choice in this particular mission here is actually a pretty odd design choice, but we'll actually be playing as Bowser in this mission because obviously Bowser's desperately want to kidnapping Princess Peach yet again. But even then, especially noticeable when before Super Mario Odyssey was about to come, that Bowser will actually do, you know, desperately want to marry her. That's all there is to know. Excuse me about that, sorry about that. So anyways, in this mission it's self-explanatory, we just have to race against with Princess Peach, and that's all there is to know. However, the only trickiest part about this mission I find in this mission is the fact that sometimes though that these little stop gates that are constantly getting in your way, sometimes it's immediately apparent whenever you're trying to come across into these little parts that you can't actually go for them. And another thing is kind of making it a little bit trickier is the fact that if you think you're trying to catch up to Princess Peach, and if you actually run out of speed items like the speed mushrooms and stuff like that, even a Starman most likely, you will temporarily get slowed down by these hedges and stuff. And yeah, funny thing about this is that we're actually driving this course we're driving this particular course in backwards function. So yeah, that's all there is to know. So anyways, here we're on to the 6th boss battle, and this was by far one of my least favorite bosses in the game. Used mushroom boosts to hit Chief Chili and knock him off the stage 3 times. So here we go, Chief Chili, the 6th boss in the game. And this is used to be the exact same arena as it does it for Big Bully, but except the fact that this might be a lot more harder, as this boss battle right here is by far the hardest in the game, because if you think that he's pretty easy at first, like all you have to do is pretty simple, just use these 3-dash mushrooms, and the player choice in this mission is Luigi, which is more like the exact same thing as it does it for Super Mario 64 DS if you think you're trying to rescue Wario from. So yeah, whatever you think these 2 hits will be pretty easy, but the 3rd and the final hit is by far the hardest, because if you think that you're actually trying to hit him at first, but then next thing what happens was though, he does this little bit of a cheating move, which is the jumping, which as soon as you think you're trying to bash into him, you'll immediately lose some balloons in the process. And also not to mention though, if you think you need to be really fast on this part, especially noticeable when some situations like, you know, if you think you're actually going to be trying to survive from this part. Oh wow, that was a little bit close. So anyways, what? We actually curved onto the edge. That's a bit lame. But anyways, yeah, this is why I really hate this boss so much, unlike how it does it for the other bosses there. And also, most of the time, it's completely luck-based on the 3rd and final hit, because again, as soon as he actually jumps way too high, the next thing you know is he actually dodges everything. So even then though, it takes a lot of patience. So even then though, we're pretty much done with this. Pretty toughest boss in the game. But we got B rank, because we deserve that. So anyways, let's go ahead and not select staff quest, because the next thing we're going to be doing and the final thing is that we're going to end things off here. So join us next time on Let's Play Mario Kart DS for Nintendo DS. It's the fact that we're moving on into the final mission modes level, and that was the form of level 7. We'll explain the unlockable method on that later. But anyway, see you guys next time. Later, folks.